Welcome to Firki's webinar on art in the times of Corona, from doing well to well-being. As mentioned earlier, my name is Anu and I work as the course designer with the Firki team. I will help you navigate through the webinar today. We will watch a short video now that will help us to just sort of get customized to the Firki website and its features. I again request Ellie to show us the video.
The Firki website offers a diverse set of content for teachers to support them in their professional development as well as in their classrooms, and is free of charge and easy to use. In order to access the portal, type firki.co and you will be directed to the Firki website. To register on Firki, fill in a brief registration form. You can also sign in through your Google account. You will have to use your email ID in order to create an account on our website. This account is again free to create and use. Once you create your account and log in with your credentials, you will be directed to the dashboard. The dashboard would have notifications related to your profile, course progress, time spent, and your Firki discussion groups. To access different pedagogical courses, you can click on the courses link on the top left of the screen. The courses page allows you to choose courses based on difficulty level and category. The courses are also available in different regional languages. Feel free to browse the different courses we have in our catalog using the search bar above. Each Firki course is designed using the FITS model that stands for Feel, Imagine, Do, and Share. The Feel section of the course helps you identify your current practices. The Imagine section defines the practices that one should follow to improve teaching and learning outcomes. A detailed description of strategies are highlighted under the Do section that one can implement in the classroom and with their students. At last, the Share section talks about ways in which one can share their learnings with each other. Each course has also a set of reflection questions as part of the assessment section. Along with the course material, each Firki course also contains a learning circle plan and journal pages. A learning circle plan helps the coaches and mentors conducting the offline learning circles to discuss and share learnings from the course. A journal page summarizes the course with important points. We are adding new courses every month, so keep watching this space. Next up, we have the webinars page that is also accessible from the top left of the screen. On this page, you will find information about the upcoming webinars. If you scroll down, you will find a bunch of resources from our older webinars. These resources will include video recordings of the webinar itself, notes from the webinar, the presentation used by our speaker, and other resources on the topic covered. Do feel free to browse this section at your leisure. The final page to look out for is the resources page, also to be found at the top left corner of your screen. This page houses and will house resources from several of our partner organizations, such as the British Council, Khan Academy, Storyweaver, Pratham Books, and more. We are in the process of adding to the list, and you can easily filter resources by partners, grades or standard, and the subject of instruction. We hope you find value in using these resources in your practice as teachers and educators. Finally, you can find the Firki app on the Play Store and can access these courses, resources, and webinars through your phone. So download our app and stay connected to teaching and learning on the go. The Firki website offers a diverse...
I hope the video helped you in knowing more about Firki. If you have questions around any of the features highlighted in the video, please write to us at contactfirki@teachforindia.org. The link for the same will be pasted shortly in the chat window. With that, let's move on to the webinar at hand today. Thank you for taking the time to join us in this discussion. In designing this and other webinars throughout the year, the Firki team is hoping that we can disseminate meaningful knowledge and skill that takes us closer to our goal of improving the quality of education in Indian classrooms. In today's webinar, Gaurav and Sakshi, our speakers for today, will focus on addressing the crucial issue of children's well-being in the wake of a pandemic and Slam Out Loud's Loud's response to the same through enabling creative expression. By emphasizing the role of art-based activities in making sense of the crisis, we will explore how art can successfully translate into a powerful tool for well-being. With this, let me quickly take you through the norms for today's webinar. Given the fact that we have a large audience with us today, please keep your video and mic off to reduce stress on the bandwidth. Unmute it only when the speaker asks you to. You can keep typing your questions in the chat box, and one of us will make sure that those are asked towards the end. Do remember that learning new things is often difficult, but challenge yourself and reflect on your thinking and experiences today. The best way to remember something is to write it down. So, please make sure that you're taking notes and sharing your learning with other people after the webinar. The webinar will also be recorded and it will be available on YouTube and the Firki website soon. We also have Bala from my team who is taking notes throughout the session, and a summary of the same will be sent to you after the webinar. This brings me to the end of my introduction. Before we go ahead, one second, let me just quickly share that. We are going to start with a quick opening activity. We always switch on our mics for 30 seconds and we will say hello in our mother tongue. So for example, if I am a Hindu, I will quickly say namaste or whatever your mother tongue is, just quickly say hello in that. So on the count of 1, 2, 3, just unmute yourself. 1, 2, 3.
Namaste.
Namaskar.
Namaskaram.
Namaskar.
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 Hello.
Namaskara.
Sri Akal.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. That was really lovely. I will now be handing over to our speakers for the day. Gaurav and Sakshi, please go ahead and introduce yourselves and start with the session. Thank you.
Hello, hi everyone. Welcome to Slam Out Loud's webinar. Thank you so much, Firki, for giving us the opportunity to talk to educators at such scale. We really love the work that you are doing, and I hope that through the webinar, we are able to pass on whatever we have learned through our journey. My name is Gaurav. I work with Slam Out Loud. I'm a co-founder and have piloted Slam Out Loud in my classroom, and then helped it form an organization, and currently looking at program design and monitoring and evaluation at it. And I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much. I also have with me Sakshi.
Hello, Gaurav.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. With me, there is also Sakshi. Sakshi there.
Hi everyone, I'm Sakshi and I am a 10th grader and I am part of Summer Dot from the last 4 years. I think now it's been 4 years. So I write poetry. So the art for my passion towards I'm very passionate about poetry and I write poems. So writing is my skill, and today I'll be taking a workshop regarding that only. And I hope you like it. Nothing more about me.
Sakshi. So Sakshi has been with us, as she told you, for a while. And we are a very strong believer in creating spaces where children could come in and express themselves. I'm quickly going to be laying out what is the format for today's next roughly 50 minutes. We're going to be starting with knowing a little bit more about Slam Out Loud, what our work is, and what we have been doing during COVID. Post that, Sakshi will take you through a mini workshop, help you experience what children who have associated with us experience through our work. Um, Basically trying to create art. If you haven't yet uh, taken reading material and writing material with you, please feel free to do so. You will be needing a pen and a paper or notebook in the webinar, and then at the end we'll be leaving time around 20 minutes for any questions that you might be having for us. I think as Anu said, it'll be great if you keep putting together your questions in the chat box that Anu and team can compile, that we can address at the end of this webinar. You can ask the questions to me, or you can ask them to Sakshi. Feel free to address. In case you don't write who the question is addressed to, either of us will pick it up. So we must begin. Okay, at Slam Out Loud, at Slam Out Loud, our work lies on the core belief that children need to be given spaces within which they can express themselves. And by that mean, we need to build in children the capacities that will help them to, one, understand what their voice is, and second is to be able to use that voice towards the betterment of themselves and the society around them. In the operational form, what we do is we use arts to build the voice that I'm talking about. We work with children between 10 to 16 years of age, and we help children through the art forms of theater, storytelling, spoken word poetry, and visual arts to build the key skills that we call creative confidence. For us, creative confidence is a set of 6 skills, which is creativity, collaboration, communication, critical thinking, self-esteem, and empathy. We believe that these key skills will help children navigate through the complex world that exists. I'm going to be diverting from here a little bit and talking why the need of Slam Out Loud arises. I was a teacher in a government school for 2 years as a part of my Teach for India fellowship. And within those 2 years, one of the things that my co-fellow and I realized was that our focus, especially in low-income private schools and government schools, is so much on literacy, numeracy, and science. And even though those are important and critical parts of learning, they do not equip children with all the skills that will help them work around the challenges that they face on an everyday basis. We thought that the space for student voice is missing. And we had an opportunity to create platforms where children would actually talk about what they want to talk about, what are their observations about their surroundings, what kind of opportunities do they see, what kind of skills do they want to build, what is it that they would want to learn. So while trying to explore how do we create that platform, we started using arts within our own classroom. And within the first year, what we saw was a tremendous difference in how children interact with art when you provide them with a platform that's not limited by a right or a wrong answer. Children get to create whatever they feel is right, and within that start understanding what their own voice is. We started as a project in 2014, and we took the next 2 years trying to understand the relevance of what we were doing. And then we piloted this project across multiple geographies in the country before ultimately forming an organization in 2017. So Slam Out Loud is a 3-year-old organization now. We just completed our 3 years. And we run 2 core programs within that. The first core program we used to run, so now our work is divided pre-COVID and post-COVID. The first program that we were running was where we were using professional artists. We would place professional artists in the classrooms across Delhi NCR. So our artists were working in 30 learning spaces, and they would work for it's a 5-year intervention where they would work for 1 year each. And through the year, we'll be working with a dedicated set of children. They will be helping those children to build the skills of creative confidence by using one of the mentioned art forms. While we were working with children in the urban areas, we realized there is a huge gap, especially for children in rural areas and vernacular languages, to be able to interact with arts. And hence the second program that we designed was called Voice for All. Within Voice for All, we created art-based learning content that children across Maharashtra, Rajasthan, and UP have been using within 950 villages. And it's a very self-learning based course where children would pick up a course on, let's say, theater, and by the end of 11 to 12 videos would be able to learn the basics of it. Same goes for, let's say, poetry or storytelling. And we saw a huge success, especially when we work with the spaces in rural India. One, because such programs don't exist for them, and second is we could leverage the community or the village to work with us, helping children create something meaningful. So a lot of children in the villages, when they did their showcases, uh, they would create they would create plays around social issues like girl child education, menstrual hygiene, and I feel and we saw that as a very like a reforming piece. But all of that came to a stop when COVID happened, and I'm going to be shifting gears and moving to that. When COVID happened, one of the first things that became very starkly visible was that uh, schools got closed and learners faced multiple difficulties. Uh, it ranged from having very low levels of social interaction. They were not getting out of their houses. They're facing a lack of creative outlets. Schools, classrooms, friend circles are places where children uh, work fearlessly with each other. They are able to share what they are feeling. Their loneliness and anxiety got amplified in these spaces. And we felt that was a very uh, uh, key problem to work with. How do we work with so many new problems together? Uh, and as we were beginning to understand the challenges, one of the opportunities was to work with technology. But upon digging a little bit deeper, we realized that India as a country has a very strong digital divide. For example, if I look at urban India, which has a population of roughly 442 million, 42% of people have internet access, as compared to people in rural India, where only 15% people have internet access. So the next question we were facing is, how do we design something uh, where people with low internet access or low tech access can use or be a part of the intervention? This is the problem statement that we started engaging with. What kind of tools will be useful when we are addressing the digital divide, as well as we are addressing the kind of problems that I mentioned before. And with that, we came up with Arts for All. What Arts for All does is essentially three things. First is it creates space where children's well-being is prioritized. We deeply believe that in a situation like this, the first thing that gets compromised, especially in low-income and under-resourced spaces, is a child's well-being. So the first thing that we were thinking of was prioritizing well-being. Second thing that we were thinking of, how do we, once we understand that their well-being is taken care of, how do we build space where children are able to express what they are feeling, and at the same time like channelize their creativity positively. And both of them had to be done using really low tech resources, uh, because a lot of our children, as you saw in the last slide, uh, will not be able to afford whatever we create if it doesn't address the digital divide that I was speaking about earlier. So we came up with Arts for All. It's an edtech low resource remote art based learning model by Slamma Cloud. And here is how it works. So what essentially happens is we have created content that can be easily disseminated over WhatsApp. And we are in the process of putting it together so that it can be shared with children over calls as well. So it becomes IVR friendly as well. But in our first phase, what we did is we created text-based, video-based, image-based content that can be sent to children that we work with. And how that happens is children, parents, or educators, they subscribe to our program. So they would fill up a small form, save our number. On everyday basis, they will receive an activity. This activity is essentially an art-based game that children can get engaged in. These are 20 to 30 minutes games that would engage children uh, to practice their creative expression, as well as at the same time like push children to think about like their own well-being, and at the same time like also anchor the learning that is happening in the process. So they would receive that on an everyday basis. Children engage in doing that activity and then they share their artwork back to us. This is essentially what the process would look like. It's a very simple 4-step process. I'm going to quickly share what our activities look like, and then I'm going to be passing it on to Sakshi. So if this is one of the games that we created, our imperative or our first principles of creating these games are they should be very resource friendly. So children do not need to like step out of their houses or have to buy or purchase new resources to be able to attempt any of our activities. And on an everyday basis, children would receive something like this, which is a text. It talks about what are the kind of resources needed, what would the game help them build, what's the age group that would get. This is most beneficial for, and then some very simple and easy steps to do. 2 things that we prioritized while creating this was, first, it has to start with an activity that helps the child center. And here, if you see on the step 1, it's written deep breathing and stretching. So children should be able to get into the zone of learning. Then they go for the step 2, step 3, so on and so forth. And the end of the activity, we push some reflection questions that help children think about what is it that they just did, so that our activity like is not just like an event, but it's an experience for children. We ask questions like, think of the ways you can use whatever you have created. What else could you have created? Questions like, who can help you create this? Who do you want to share these things with? Those kind of questions help children think deeply about what they just did. And in our belief, it just amplifies the kind of experience that the child is having. I'm going to be pausing here. And you have been listening to me for a while. I shared about Slam Out Loud. I shared about why we exist. I shared about the problems that pandemic brought to us and the kind of digital divide. Then I moved to talk about what Slam Out Loud does, how do we do it, and this is an example of what we do. What we are going to be doing next is Sakshi is going to be engaging you in one of the games that we have designed. For this, you will need your pen and paper ready to be able to participate in this. Sakshi, over to you.
Thank you so much, Bhaiya. So first of all, am I audible to everybody? You can just write it in the chat.
Yes, Sakshi, you are audible.
Okay. So first, for the first 30 seconds, let's just calm down and let's just let our thoughts go out of ourselves, and let's just be calm and relax. Sit down for 30 seconds and just be relaxed. Be excited for what we are going to do next, but of course be relaxed. Don't think much whether it'll be hard or not, but just calm down. I'm giving you 30 seconds. Just breathe, like breathe in and then hold and then exhale. Do it for some time. Do it 2-3 times. Let your mind be free. Just be calm and like let your thoughts go out. Mind is always busy. It always think about one or another thing. Let it be calm. Let yourself be relaxed. Cool, then we are getting on the second step. So first think of a word and take a sheet of paper and so write the first 3 words that comes to your mind. Take a sheet of paper and a pen. Think of any 3 words that comes to your mind, and that the words should connect to you. Like you should feel very connected to those words. Any 3 words that comes to your mind, that comes first to your mind. So if 4 or 5 words are coming, just write top 3 that you feel most connected with. and just write them down on the paper. And don't just write random words, but words that you are strongly connected with. You have 10 seconds for it. Okay, so from those 3 words, now choose a word, and the word should not exceed more than 5 letters. Like the word should be maximum of 5 letters. For example, the word I am very connected with is love. So it has 4 letters, LOVE, something like that. So the 3 words that you have that you chose before, that you are very connected with, choose one out of them, and the word which is not which doesn't have more than 4 or 5 letters, it should not exceed more than 5 letters. Again, you have 10 seconds for it. Okay, so the third step that we'll be going through is observe the letters. Once you have decided the word, write each of the letter at the top of your sheet with some distance. So for example, the word that I took is love. Now I'll be writing that on the top of my sheet, the paper or the notebook that is with me. I'll write it on the top of the sheet, and with some distance, like the word should be capital. All the words are written in the capital, and then after writing, we will observe them for some time, like how does it look, something like that, and stare at each letter carefully and observe the shape of each letter, like what is the shape of each letter and how does it look. So if I have in the word love I have O, so doesn't the O look like the rotis we have for dinner? O looks like somewhat, for me, O looks like the rotis we have for dinner. Doesn't the V look like the stem of the flowers in a bouquet? You can think of any object that the letter look like. Observe the letter, observe things around you, and you can think of any object that the letter looks like. You have a maximum 10 to 20 seconds to think for it. And each letter can remind you of something, like any object, any incident that you have seen, anything. Just try remembering those and scribbling those letters into small notes, like write them down into small notes or incidents into small notes. Try to think of a object that looks like that letter and write it down. Just write the object down in front of it or just below it, below the word. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So now we'll be moving to our fourth step. We have done 3 steps. Now we'll be moving to our fourth step. So this is about, now we'll be writing the poem. We have thought of the word, we have observed the word, and we have thought of the objects that looks like that word, looks like the letters of that word basically. So we have observed every letter, and we have thought of a object that looks like the letters of that word. So we'll be making a short poem, and every letter should be like every letter have a separate line, and the title of the poem will be will be the word itself. So if you have thought of an S in your word, uh, it does seem like it seems like it's about, we are talking about a snake or something. It if you because snake never walks in a straight line, it always moves into like a wave. So you can think of S maybe a wave or maybe a snake, kind of that. So now we'll be writing the poem. So the word that I was very connected with, if you remember, it was love. So the first line of the first line of the poem, I'm really sorry. The first line of the poem that we'll be writing together will be the and the letter that you have chosen. So the first letter of the word that you have, the word you chose. So my word was love. So I'll be writing the L is the half open form of my favorite book. I repeat my line. The L is the half open form of my favorite book. You have to write something like this. So whatever you have to write the letter first, and then you have to write what object you have thought about, and like in what manner. I thought of L as an half open book, so I wrote the line. The L is the half open book, half open form of my favorite book. So just write the first line of the poem. You have 30 seconds for it. You can explain it in any manner you want to, with long sentences, with difficult words. I have kept it simple. You can make it in any manner you want. But remember that the object should be there that you have come. If you are done, you can give me like you can just raise your hand, and then I'll get to know about it. Okay, so I got one done. So we'll be writing to the next, to the second line of the poem. We'll be going through the second line. Now, the second letter of the word. So my second letter was O, is O, sorry. So my second letter of the word is O. So the second line will look like the O is as round as the rotis we have for dinner. Because I compared O with the rotis that we have for dinner. So for me, so the O is as round as the rotis we have for dinner. You have to do the same thing again, the thing that you did for the first time. Write the letter and then the object it looks like, and then explain something. You can give me a done if you are, or you can just give me a done in the chat box, or if you can raise your hands if you are done. Okay, so I have got 2-3 done. I mean, yeah. So now we'll be moving on to the third word, or the third line of the poem actually. So the third letter of the word that I chose was V. So the third line looks like the V. The V is the stem of roses in a bouquet. The V is the stem of roses in a bouquet. you have to write the same, not the same thing that I've wrote, but of course the third letter of your word that you chose, and then the object or something object or the incident you thought of, or the object it looks like. I repeat the line for the help. The V is the stem of the roses in a bouquet. If you are done, you can raise your hands, or you can just write done in the comment box, like in the chat box. I'll like get to know. Cool, then we are moving to the fourth line and the last line of my poem, actually, because I love only have 4 letters into it. So the last word, the last letter is E. So the line looks like, the E looks like the half bar of chocolate Bhai shared with me. I repeat my line, the E looks like the half bar of chocolate Bhai shared with me. You have to do the same. Just like this from in the past 3 times what we are writing, the same thing we have to do with the fourth. We will be writing writing the letter, and all the letters that we are writing individually, they all should be capital, so you should not write it in small letters. And you can again give me a, like, you can again raise your hands if you are done, or write it in the chat box. Okay, so we have, my poem is done. I had 4 letters into my word. If you have 5 letters into your word, you have to do the same with 5th line. I'm giving you 1 more minute to just complete. And if you have thought of 5 letter word, then just completing the last line. Till then, someone who has 4 letters, or who have thought of 4 letter word or 3 letter word, they can just go through their poems. One more minute. Now, so the poem, I will read the 4 line together that I wrote, and then you can just share your poems in the chat box or something. So I'll start. The L is the half open book. The L is the half open form of my favorite book. The O is as round as the rotis we have for dinner. The V is the stem of roses in a bouquet. And E looks like the half bar of chocolate my bhai shared with me. So this is the 4 line poetry that I made. In this poem, every line has something connected to the word love, and every letter of the word. So, and love is itself the title of the poem. So the word you have chosen, that is the title of the poem. And I hope you have did it too. And if you are still struggling with it, you can, or like objects or something, you can do it again, or you can do it too. Now you can read the poem or edit the poem later on. So you can just share your poems, whatever you wrote, in the chat box. I can see some of the poems in the chat box and they are too lovely. Thank you so much for sharing. You can keep on sharing. I'll read it out. And I hope everybody who is there, they can read out the poems. I have just got three poems or words. They have shared a lot of words and I've got 2 poems till now. And you can just share, you can just share whatever lines you wrote. Till then we'll be also focusing on, so since this is we'll be doing the last step of the poem. We are at the last step of the session, actually not the poem but session actually. So we'll be reflecting on what we did right now. So there are some questions and you have to answer them. How hard it was to come up with images for a letter, like how hard it was for you to think of an object that looks like a letter. You can reply it in the chat box. I got to see a poem on love itself, but in a different manner with different lines. Please, if you can share, tell me how hard it was to come up with the images for the letters. Okay. For me, it almost took from morning to evening to think of what it should look like. Yeah, it was difficult for me. So the second question, was it interesting to think about letters as real? We have always seen letters on the papers, and then we were thinking of it in the real life. Thank you so much for sharing. I hope it helped you. I hope you find it easier to write poetry now. And you can write any kind of poetry. Like there are a lot of forms of poetry and it doesn't take too much. Like it's just that you have to write your thoughts on the paper. So I hope it helped you and you find it easier to write poems. And remember, poems can be of 4 lines, 3 lines, or just 2 lines even. It doesn't have to be as long as 14, 15 lines. Non. So for the question, do all thoughts make a poem poetry? Not really. So if there are some thoughts which are like a story. Poetry is basically when we are writing a whole story, a big new 2-3 arc story into 5 to 6 seconds, like 5 to 6 minutes. So if a story is into 10 pages and we are just writing it in some flow, then and writing it, like making it short of maybe into 10 pages are converted into those 2 lines, and the meaning is coming out even when we read those 2 lines, those 2 pages, or when we read the 10 pages of the story. So there is a difference in all the thoughts and writing the poem, but it basically a flow comes when you read a poetry. It doesn't have to be it can be as long as you want, but all the thoughts are not like all the thoughts, they can be formed into poems, but all the thoughts that we write, it's not necessary them to be like they are poems or something like that. Cool. So take a few minutes. Now we are at the end of the session. Take a few minutes and close your eyes. Just focus on how you went from one word to an idea to a poem. Like we just in the start we just thought of a word, and then we thought of an idea, like we related each and every letter into some, we thought of a object that each and every letter looks like. We observed every letter separately, and then we made a poem, like a proper poem, 4-line or 5-line poem. So just take a few minutes and just close your eyes and think about it. Okay, so over to Didi right now.
Thank you so much, Sakshi, for that wonderful facilitation. It's not every day that we have a 10th grader facilitator session for us. I think it was beautifully done. We will now open the room for questions. I can see that some people have already typed a few questions. I request others also to type in any questions that they may have at this point, and I'll ask the same from Gaurav and Sakshi. So I'll give everyone around 30 seconds to just type their questions, and then I'll begin. All right, let's begin with the Q&A session. So the first question, Gaurav and Sakshi, is that what type of art forms can we deal with easily in this situation to avoid anxiety? Like clearly there are a lot of art forms that are there, but which ones can we pick up easily in the current situation?
Thank you. I think that's a very relevant question, specifically given how resources and our movement is limited in these scenarios. I've personally felt like being able to use visual arts makes it most easiest. It makes it most easy for children to connect to, especially because it doesn't require like them to have a certain vocab or language to work with. It's not limited by semantics. For example, I'll quickly show one of the visual art activities that we did, and it doesn't need to be restricted to like drawing a flower or drawing a tree or drawing a scenery. It can be a little bit more innovative and still use something that is available around children. For example, if you look at this activity, is this visible on your screens?
It is visible, Gaurav, but could you maybe zoom it a little bit?
Yeah, just I think I zoomed in too much. So if you look at this activity, sorry, I'm struggling a little bit with technology. So if you look at this activity, it talks about how children can create a fish using dots. And this is what one of the child created. It's a form of drawing. But if you look at the next activity, which is this one, where children will be picking up an already existing image from a newspaper and then try to draw something on the second half of it. They have to cut half of it and then draw the second half. This is what a child created and then submitted. So these kinds of activities, which are not like very language intensive, capture the attention the fastest. It's also because it can be done with any age group and all the age groups like it. So yeah, that's my input. The second kind of activity that I think can be done is anything that has to do with either theater or storytelling. Something that can be done verbally. Children can come up and create and try to recreate a story, a scene that they like. Those become like the second choices.
Thank you, Gaurav. The next question is around just correction and feedback. So
Yeah.
when we are dealing with artworks online through virtual synchronous classes, how do we sort of explain to students what they need to do correctly, or how do we give feedback?
So for us, there has been a couple of parameters that we try to convey to children, especially because in these scenarios, like we are more concerned about like engagement and well-being. So you're not grading children against like one another. But we do set up saying these are the things that you can look for. For example, if they're submitting something which is like a visual art, a couple of parameters that we can prescribe is like the art is uniformly colored, it's not going outside the borders and stuff like that. Giving children very subjective parameters to work with works the best, instead of looking for like trying to quantify and saying ये color use करने के 5 number हैं और ये shape बनाने के 10 number हैं. Like just setting standards for children that would help them to look at their art more qualitatively. Also, I think the second way to go about it is asking children to critique their own art. For example, a child who created this, I would ask them the question, if you had to look at this art and say what are like 3 good things about it and one thing that you could have done better or differently, children become engaged in the process of like evaluating their own art and being able to give their own feedback. Sakshi, would you like to add something?
No, Bhaiya. I was thinking
Okay.
of the same.
Thank you.
Right. So essentially, we use checklists and rubrics to help students evaluate.
Yeah. If they are doing a storytelling, then the rubric involves like what is body language, what is voice modulation looking like, and stuff like that. We can tell them what can be done better or what could like the next step look like for them.
Right. Okay. The next question is around just employability skills. So someone has asked that how can we also ensure that some of these art forms that we are telling to our kids also help in the development of employability skills, especially since a lot of the students are from needy families. So is there any specific art form that we can give to them for this?
We can, but I think employability is a little bit more complex question to answer because it also depends upon the sectoral needs, the kind of competition that exists outside, how good you are. Then we are looking at what will be commercially viable for the market to have and then for us to be able to sell. Having said that, a couple of pieces that can be looked at from the employability perspective is what will make a child like advance to the next level. For example, they have been as children creating art for a while. What can help them up their game? Are there scholarships they can be paired with? Are there specific colleges that they can attend to? What are the kind of networks that we can connect them to? Arts, media, entertainment industry is one of the biggest industries in the country. And yes, our children need to be prepared for that, and there is a huge opportunity within it. But I think within that, like children will have to learn from 3 things. One is to look at their own art and be able to point out what can be done better. Second is create a pathway for themselves from 3 to 5 year perspective and saying, अच्छा 10th के बाद मुझे इस college में जाना है, इस society का part होना है. And third is to be able to map them to networks that help them become better or give them that kind of leverage. And I do feel that this industry has huge opportunity for children to feel like self-employed and build that degree of confidence and be able to financially sustain themselves. But for the building blocks of that will need to come at a very early stage, especially for the children that we work with, because their responsibilities are a lot and they need to see those signs of early success. And I think it's our role, in our role as educators, we should be like facilitating that, telling them that where they are getting, like what's the kind of success that can get replicated.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Our next question is just around secondary classes. Like what are some art forms that we can suggest to secondary students, 8th and above?
So I think children get fascinated by any art. Like we were doing a workshop with puppets 3 weeks ago, and I was so excited. I think the most excited person on the team because there were puppets involved. So as long as art carries the relevance of messaging and captures that degree of curiosity, like to me, art should capture that angle of curiosity. People should become curious. Like I look at the art that you can see currently on this, and I get curious. Oh, how would a kid have created it? Did they keep it on the side and then try painting it? Did they make the hair different for some reason and stuff like that? Whatever piques a child's curiosity can be channelized into a relevant art form. Having said that, a lot of elder students in our program are trying to explore what photography could look like, because that's a huge avenue. It's also something that is booming. They are also exploring what sculpting could look like, what modern art could look like. But I think between 8th to 11th, our imperative should be to be able to like expose them to a bunch of art forms and then get children to see what excites them the most, what is it that they are fascinated by and would pick on doing. And I don't think there is a uniform answer to it. It can be something like poetry, or it can be something like puppetry that could excite a child in 10th or 12th grade.
Right. The next question is just about accessibility. I think a lot of questions about what do we do about children who go to rural government schools? What do we do about children who don't have access to online learning? Just about accessibility, how do we tackle that?
So one is, if children do not have access to online learning, it's a sad truth, but they get left behind in terms of like kind of resources that they can get, kind of opportunities that get created by them. Some organizations have started working in that domain. For example, we are working with Pratham in the 950 villages that I spoke about, and Pratham has distributed tabs to them, and then children use those tabs, and there is like an offline learning that happens. It doesn't need to be connected to online. Our content goes directly on these USB micro SD cards, and then it's directly accessible on the tabs. It doesn't need internet at all. Another thing that we are trying to do is to do an IVR service, which is like having a phone call scheduled for children, especially who do not have access to internet, where like how Sakshi facilitated a session with you without you having to like see her or look at a page, and still people came up with an activity. We have recorded our activities in very similar format, where a child would receive a call and would listen to it for 3 to 5 minutes and will be able to create an art activity on their own. So those are the things that we are trying. We haven't actually cracked what would it take for arts to revolutionize what happens in a rural setting. Two insights that we have had with working with Pratham. One is there is a huge scope of like prioritizing local arts. For example, a folk art that happens in the village, bringing that back and using that as an anchor can be helpful. And that can be something like a rural dance form, a folk tale form, or anything that has been practiced for a while. I'm saying that because the facilitators of that art you will get within the village or within the local community. The second kind of thing that I think can happen is getting children to come together within these rural spaces and create like a community of practitioners, wherein 5 to 10 children can come together and create a Nukkad Natak group. 5 to 10 children can come up and create a painters group. They go around and paint messages on the wall or practice that. We will have to build an ecosystem that thrives within that space till the time there is an access to an online space. But I think people have been trying to do that, and with a little success, I think they're not very far. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think you answered that brilliantly. It's 3:59 now, and with this we come to the end of our session. I would like to thank Gaurav and Sakshi for their time and expertise. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sakshi. I would like to now request both Gaurav and Sakshi to also share how their experience was in this webinar. Please, a few words from both of you.
Okay, Sakshi, over to you first, and then I would go.
Yeah. So My experience, I think this was the first time when I was not looking at the audience, or the audience was not in front of me, and I was facilitating a workshop, because it has never happened before. Whenever I have facilitated, there have been people in front of me, and I have worked with them, and I've asked them to do like the steps and everything, being in front of them. So this was the first time I was doing it this way, and first I was little nervous, but then I was excited too, because it was this will be my first experience on Zoom call, taking a workshop with so many people.
Sakshi,
And
if I may just say, it didn't seem like it was your first time. It seemed like you have done this many times.
no, I this on Zoom call, it was the first time. Bhaiya knows it, you can ask him. I've never did it before.
It was really good.
So yeah, but now it has now I overcame my fear with that. I can't do it online or without seeing people. I can even do it in this way. And the best thing that I like, reading the chat box, and they were whenever they were saying that it was interesting, we really liked it. That is something great for any facilitator, or that is something happiest for any facilitator to read out. So that is a happier part for me, I think. This made my day actually. Bhaiya, to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sakshi. For me, equally helpful. I think a lot of insights to take. Thank you for asking some very insightful questions, especially on the rural front. I think there is so much that our children from rural India, and which forms like a chunk of population, miss out on because they don't have access. And I'm just glad that people are thinking in that direction. Thank you so much, Team Firki, for having us here. I just have a small call to action from everyone who's watching. So if you are an educator and who wants their children to have an access to art-based learning activity, fill in the first form. You can circulate it to your children and they can fill it on their own. And what will happen in the next few days, it'll be great if you could fill it by end of the day, because tomorrow we are piloting our first batch. But if your children fill this, they will be receiving a call from our end. It's going to be a pre-recorded call. We are testing our activities with new set of children that we have never worked with for feedback and implementation. And if your children want to be a part of that, someone who receives a phone call, listens to an activity, creates an arts, and then shares it with you. If you want them to be a part of that, please ask them to fill the form in the first link. I've made this link very easy. It's essentially bit.ly/slamoutloudfirki together. And then if you want to get our pre-existing activities that I showed you, you may write to us. We are collating them together in a booklet, and we'll be happy to share with you that you can use in your own context. Thank you so much for having it here. That will be all from my end.
Gaurav, can you just
Yes,
check if
Ashwat.
it's working for you?
This
Because
link,
it's something wrong. If we go to it, the bit.ly/slamoutloud.
okay, just.
And those of you who have
It
registered,
says Slam Out Loud Firki. Have you used the entire?
yeah, let me try it again.
Yeah, it's bit.ly/Slam Out Loud Firki written together. I'm gonna be sharing it on the chat bot as well. Sorry, chat box as well.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the link that Prerna shared. Yeah. Yeah, people can check if they're able to open that. I think this is the one, and it should work.
Yeah, it's working. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a very small form. Children can fill it on their own, and we'll be happy to give them a call, tell them an activity, a story, a visual art piece. Yeah, whatever picks they're learning, and then they can choose to be a part of our longer programs. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Gaurav. Our next webinar is scheduled to take place on July 20th with Shamtalay Foundation. So do look for Firki emails in your inbox for information on this upcoming webinar. And before you leave, please take a minute to give us feedback on your learning experience on our webinar today. This will help us grow and improve our resources for you. So you can access the form on the chat box and quickly give us feedback. To reach out to our speakers after the webinar, write to gaurav@slamoutloud.com. Follow Slam Out Loud on Instagram and Facebook, or visit their website for regular updates. All of these links are being posted on the chat box right now. Thank you so much and have a really good evening.